Morning. Just out for a little morning walk. As you can see, I've trimmed my beard and cut my hair. Not. Um, just some thoughts on what's happening at the moment in the UK. And I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I think we're probably at the most dangerous. We're in the most dangerous situation the UK's faced for many, many years. And the reality is that a major part of the problem is what in America is called the legacy media, what we call the mainstream media. And the problem that we've got is that the mainstream media are a completely biased and politicized group of people. The sad thing is half of them don't even realize it. They actually think they're on the side of the angels. They think they're doing a great job ranting about racism. I don't believe for 1 minute that Britain or England, especially England, I don't believe for 1 minute. Morning. Now, I'm going to apologise again. When you're putting comments on here, I can't see the comments. I can see somebody saying morning, Richard, but I can't see who it is. So good morning, whoever you are. Good to see there's some early risers in our movement. But yeah, and we all need to get out and get our early morning exercise as well to keep us nice and fit and healthy. Sorry, what was I saying? So yeah, mainstream media. They are highly political. They are not impartial. You can see that from the footage of what happened at the weekend. What happened at the weekend was an absolute scandal. And I genuinely believe, and I've spoken to many of my black friends about this, who are absolutely appalled by this group calling themselves Black Lives Matter. They're absolutely appalled by the far left hijacking people in the black community. I spoke to a man yesterday. I'm not going to mention his name. And again, this is part of the problem. This man is by no means a coward and is by no means scared to face anyone down. And he told me in the 70s, when he was a young lad, he literally stood and fought pitched battles with the National Front in London. He got stuck in. He was a great patriot, still is a great patriot. He was a soldier, football fan, police officer, and I've known him since the start of this movement. I've known him for the past 3 years, and I've become very good friends with him. But I'm not going to say anymore. But he won't speak openly at the minute. That's all I'm going to say. He won't speak openly about these issues at the minute because of the ramifications of speaking openly about it. And I'm sure there's many people in the black community that are like that. It's not down to cowardice. Believe you me, it is not down to cowardice that people are not speaking out. And I understand that. But there's another guy that I've known. I don't know him that well. I've met him a couple of times. Again, a great lad. Spoke to him a lot on the phone. Don Gibson up in Birmingham. Don Gibson was a veteran again. He was a commando, so he went through the commando training. Believe you me, the Army Commandos. He's Royal Engineer Commando. Very hard course, very tough guy. And he put out a statement yesterday. And if I get the chance, I've reposted it a few times on VK. If I get the chance, I'll try and read Don's statement, because Don just ripped into these lunatics that are basically claiming that they're doing what they're doing in the name of anti-racism, when everybody knows that what they are is far left agitators who are actually trying to provoke a race war. And the left do not care about black people. They do not care. And I think we've only got to look to America, where in America the people that eventually became the Democrats were the racists. So, I mean, what does that tell you about left-wing politics in America? And the media in the UK are exactly the same. The mainstream media, they're pretending that they care about race relations, but if they really examine their hearts, they would realise there's not a problem with racism in the United Kingdom. They want there to be a problem because it gives them something they can jump on. But there isn't a problem with racism in the UK. It's a myth that the media are perpetuating. But what's going to happen? I've said this for years. If you continually point at people and scream at people, and I've seen this happen. I've seen people who started in our movement as fairly moderate people become radicalized, because what they've seen is that we're all getting called racist anyway, so they've gone off the plot and gone off the reservation and become racist nutjobs themselves. And the mainstream media is to blame. People like Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan yesterday on his TV show Good Morning Britain basically saluted criminal damage. He signed off on criminal damage. He said it's okay to pull statues down if they're statues of slave traders. Well, I want to ask a question of Piers Morgan, and it relates to another slave trader, a man called John Newton. Now, some of you will know who John Newton is, some of you won't know who John Newton is. I'll tell you a story very, very quickly. John Newton was a slave trader. He went to Sierra Leone and traded in slaves, ran slave ships across the Atlantic, and actually John Newton himself fell into poverty in Sierra Leone. He actually ended up a slave himself. So that's the irony of it. He was a white man who ended up a slave to black men. Anyway, John Newton realised that slavery was wrong. Maybe it's this guy in Bristol did. I don't know anything about this guy in Bristol. John Newton came to the realisation that slavery was wrong, that it was a heinous crime. John Newton became a Christian, and he then campaigned against the slave trade for the rest of his life. But because he was a slave trader, will Black Lives Matter now demand that any reference to John Newton is ripped from the history books, or that he's just painted as a slave trader and not as somebody who campaigned for the freedom and for the release of slaves? And of course, if you did know anything about John Newton, you would know that he wrote that amazing hymn, Amazing Grace. Is Amazing Grace now going to be banned because John Newton at one time was involved in the slave trade? That's the sort of lunacy that we're going through at the minute. And I'll be honest with you, when I see Piers Morgan on the TV, I think my wife puts him on the TV every morning just to wind me up, because I go downstairs and his fat, ugly face, his fat, white, ugly face, let's get it right. Let's get it right, you know, because we've got to be defined now by the colour of our skin. What a complete load of bull. I don't care. I don't care what colour your skin is. I never have. I care what you believe. That's what our whole movement has been about and has said from the very, very beginning. We're against all extremes, against all extremism. We care about what people think and what they do, not what their background is. And that's pretty much what Don was saying in his piece yesterday, which was a fantastic piece. It should be published in the national press, but it won't be, because the mainstream media want to feed into the narrative. And I just listened to Dan Wootton. Dan Wootton's a journalist for The Sun. He has a radio show on talk radio, and he started condemning the protests, or the violence at the protests, and so on and so forth, condemning Sadiq Khan. I thought, well, that's good, you know, he's making progress. And then he said this is Dan Wootton, who's meant to be a voice on the right. He said, I completely agree with Black Lives Matter. You completely agree with Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter are a Marxist, revolutionary, racist organisation. And I'm going to call them out. I don't care if people call me racist for saying that, because I know I'm not, so I don't give a shit what people say about me. Because I tell you now, Black Lives Matter do not have the best interests of the black community at heart, because they are going to create in this country racial division like we have never seen in this country. Because even back in the dark days of the 70s, when the National Front was stalking the streets and were attacking black people, and when there was conflict between the West Indian community and the National Front, that was a tiny, tiny minority of white people that were radicalised and got involved in that sort of nonsense. But what's happening here now, a lot of people are going, is this really what the black community think? Do they really hate us? That's the question that people are asking. And I'll be honest with you, I asked my friend yesterday that I spoke to, I'm not going to say his name on camera, I asked my friend yesterday, I said, I'm going to be honest with you, have I got this wrong? Is this what the black community really think of us? And his answer was interesting. And he said, look, he says, in the 70s, he says, when we were growing up, this guy's born in England, he's as English as I am, he's just got a different colour skin. He said, when we were growing up, we were subject to racism and we fought back. But we loved our country, we served in the military, we're patriotic, we won't take any racism, which is right. I mean, I agree. You should stand up to racism, right? I agree with that. But he said, we were patriots and we weren't bothered about skin colour. He says, but you see the generation now, this is what he said to me. He said, the generation now, I'm not quoting him word for word, but he said, basically the generation now have been pampered, they've been radicalised, and they've been told that they are victims. They've been educated to believe that they are victims. And the left wing are the ones that are stoking up identity politics. The left wing are the ones that are saying the colour of your skin matters. Listen to what Anthony Joshua said. What a disgraceful speech Anthony Joshua made. I mean, it's not surprising, is it? Considering Anthony Joshua goes and bows his knee to the King of Saudi Arabia. I don't know whether he's secretly converted to Islam or he's about... Yeah, somebody just put London Saturday. Guys, get to London on Saturday. I'm going to try and get there. I don't know if I can get there because it's getting out of Northern Ireland at the minute. It's like escaping from Alcatraz. I'd have to flip and remortgage my house to get a flight or swim. But if I can get there, I'll get there. But if you can get to London on Saturday, get to London on Saturday and peacefully guard those war memorials. And what I think would be an amazing image for London on Saturday, if we had black veterans, white veterans, Gurkhas, football lads, all standing together peacefully. It's got to be peaceful. We can't fall into the trap that the mainstream... You see, this is the danger of Saturday, right? There is a danger with Saturday. I'll tell you what the danger is. The danger is that the mainstream media, who are against us, they are not impartial or enemies, that the mainstream media get footage on Saturday of white football lads and white veterans facing down black protesters. That's the footage that they want, right? So we mustn't allow that to happen. We mustn't allow this to become a race confrontation on Saturday, because it's not about race. It's about extreme left-wing ideology that wants to promote a race war, destroying the fabric of our society. When they're pulling down statues, and somebody was saying it, I think Brendan O'Neill said it yesterday on the radio. Brendan O'Neill said, look, I don't particularly like Oliver Cromwell. This is what I personally do like Oliver Cromwell, but that's another story. Brendan O'Neill said he didn't like Oliver Cromwell, but he doesn't want his statue pulled down. Well, exactly. There's plenty of statues that represent people that I'm sure I could disagree with. I'm sure I could go around Ireland and find statues of IRA men who've done heinous things to the British people that live in Northern Ireland, and done heinous things even to Irish people. And I quite, you know, I could be quite justified in saying their statue should be pulled down. And if you want to get a statue pulled down, well, do it democratically. Get voted on a ticket of pulling statues down. I don't think you get very far. But what happened in Bristol on Saturday, Sunday or whenever it was, I don't know anything about this guy whose statue was pulled down. All I know is that he was involved in the slave trade and he was a philanthropist, right? So maybe he was like John Newton and he'd had one of these road to Damascus experiences and realised that the slave trade was wrong. I don't know. I know nothing about the man. But criminal damage and mob behaviour being facilitated, and it was facilitated by the police, is absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Before I forget, by the way, tomorrow night is going to be a very, very interesting night. I've got Pastor Wally Babatunde. Pastor Wally Babatunde came to the UK from Nigeria. He's a Nigerian Christian. He has seen at first hand the genocide that's been carried out by jihadists in Nigeria against his community. He's come to the United Kingdom and he loves the United Kingdom. He loves the historic United Kingdom. He loves British heritage. He loves historical British Christianity, okay? He's going to come on my channel on Wednesday night at 7:30 and he's going to give his take on what's happening in the UK, what's happening in Africa and how it's all tied together. Keep saying, yeah, absolutely it needs to be peaceful. Our protests have got to be peaceful. Since the very beginning, the football lads, the veterans have stood for peaceful protest. And I've seen lads from the DFLA put themselves in danger, right? Between people that have got a bit boisterous, and the police to stop violence happening. I've seen that. So when these protests happen on Saturday, I'm sure that they will be peaceful. And I'm sure that there won't be any racism in them, because I know the football lads, I know the veterans, they're not racist, and they're not wanting to go out for a fight. They're wanting to save their country. That's what this is about. We don't want to, you see, this is the difference between us and them. The left want to destroy our country. The mainstream media, the legacy media, the fake news media, that's what they should be called. We're not going to call them mainstream media anymore. I'm going to call them fake news media. The fake news media want to destroy our country. They are hard left. Piers Morgan is an absolute disgrace. What he said yesterday, he should be sacked for what he said yesterday. He was inciting violence. He was inciting criminal action. Oh, he condemned the attack on Churchill, because even Piers Morgan wouldn't go that far. He wouldn't start condemning Churchill. Or maybe he would. Last week, he had a racist activist on his show. He didn't even challenge him. This guy that Piers Morgan had on his show last week talked about the psychosis of whiteness. Can you imagine that? The psychosis of whiteness. Imagine if you said the psychosis of blackness. You'd be strung up. You'd never get a platform again. But no, Piers Morgan has Kahindi Andrews on his show, and Kahindi Andrews can say as many racist comments as he wants and get away with it. Yes, tomorrow night, Pastor Wally Babatunde's on the show at 7:30. But as well as Pastor Wally Babatunde, Tommy Robinson is coming live onto the show tomorrow night, isn't it? Yeah, Wednesday night. Tomorrow night, Tommy Robinson, 7:30, with Pastor Wally Babatunde. Because the reality is, Tommy has been painted as this hard right demagogue for years. Tommy's one of the most moderate people. Tommy's far more moderate than me. I've said this scores of times. Tommy is far more moderate than me. A lot of my views Tommy would not agree with, right? We totally agree on the Islam thing, but some of the other views I'm sure he wouldn't agree with. I'm not a racist either, but you know, there's some things that I would say that I'm sure he wouldn't agree with, maybe on abortion and all those sorts of things, right? But the reality is, and I don't want to put words into his mouth because I don't know about those things, but the reality is he has been demonized by the media. And if people want to look at persecution, you know, people talk about black people getting stopped in the street. You try going somewhere with Tommy and see what happens. You know, I mean, come on. You know, the police will always be stopping him, always trying to pin something on him, always, you know, putting him in situations where they're trying to get a reaction out of him. The media have done it, the police have done it, the left have done it. So Tommy's going to be coming on, and Tommy's going to be talking about his beliefs about all this, his solutions, his history, about the fact that he grew up, many of his friends that he grew up with were black lads. He's going to be talking about all those things and giving us his opinion on what's happening in the UK and the dangers of it. And I watched the feed he did yesterday, and he called it 100% right when he said, this is identity politics being imported from the United States of America. And it's extremely dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. What else have we got? Yeah, so Wednesday. Now there's another guy that I hope to have on a live stream later on in the week. I'm trying to arrange that at the minute. Might even be able to get him on tomorrow night, I'm not sure. It's just the problem is if we have too many people on one live stream, it will make it a bit too busy. So I think we'll probably actually get him on later on in the week. But again, he's a black lad and he has got an opinion on it that I think has got to be heard, an opinion on everything that's going on, and he's publicly speaking out. And of course, the reality is, this is the insanity of it. If you're black and you have conservative opinions, white left-wing Marxists will call you an Uncle Tom. Now, if that isn't racism, what is? So if you happen to be black and you happen to believe the same things I believe, you believe in conservative values, you believe in patriotism, you love your country, according to Black Lives Matter and according to Stand Up to Racism and all these other Marxists, you're Uncle Tom. That's the insanity that we're living in. And the mainstream media coverage of those riots at the weekend, those anti-white riots, because if you have an organisation called Black Lives Matter, what that is saying by default is that the only lives that matter are black lives. And that's racism, right there. But of course, the insanity of this is, you can't be racist if you're black. That's what these people believe. That's what the left wing believe. Personally, my opinion, and Pastor Wally, who will be speaking tomorrow, I believe his opinion as well, is there's no such thing as race. There's one race. It's the human race. And what we have is slightly adapted skin pigmentation. If you live in the northern hemisphere, away from the sun, you don't need to have a dark skin. Okay? If you live near the equator, just by time and evolution, whatever you want to call it, your skin pigmentation changes to adapt to that environment. That's the reality of the situation. There is only one race, and it's the human race. So guys, I keep doing live feeds on this, and I'm sorry if people are getting bored with it, but I think our country is in real danger. I believe our country's in real danger from the far left still. You see, the far left is so ingrained in the establishment. I met a senior police officer after one of our demonstrations. They asked me to go and meet them, right? Because we had a demonstration, and let's just say it got a little bit boisterous, and the police overreacted, and the crowd reacted, and it got a bit out of hand. The police asked to see me, and I thought I was going to get arrested. But I thought, well, I'll go and see them, because what I wanted to do was put across our point of view, who we really were, because we're painted as these terrible, terrible, violent, racist thugs, who we really were, what we really believed. And the policeman said to me, he said, I believe, this is what he said to me, he said, I believe that the football lads movement is racist. That's what he said to me. And I said to him, I says, well, look, I can tell you now, I'm not part of the football lads. I says, but I can tell you now that they're not racist. And I says, and we can prove that they're not racist. Even Hope Not Hate says that the DFLA are not racist, right? But the policeman, he kept going at me, no, they're racist. I says, you've no evidence for that. That's just absolute nonsense. So I challenged him on what he was, because basically he was slandering friends of mine, okay? But then I said to him this, I says, now there is a group of people who are on record as been institutionally racist. I says, and you're representing them. Of course, that silenced him straight away. But the point is, these police officers now are absolutely infiltrated by the left. They are controlled by the left. I'm talking about the higher ranks and the bobbies on the beat. And I'll tell you now, they can't say it openly, but when you're talking to policemen and ex-police officers, they are appalled by what's happened in London this weekend. They're appalled by the appeasement of Islamist terrorists. They're appalled by the appeasement of gangs of feral youths, no matter what colour they are. I don't care what colour you are. If you're a wrong 'un, you're a wrong 'un. It's as simple as that. If you're going out to create havoc and mayhem and to harm innocent people and to commit crimes, you're a wrong 'un. And no matter what colour you are, you should be dealt with the full force of the law. And we got far too soft. We got far too soft with all this stuff. Oh man. And then we've got Lewis Hamilton. You see, what we've got now, we haven't just got, you know, they talk about white privilege, right? People talk about white privilege. And I would guess most people are like me that watch these feeds. We left school at 16, started working, we never went to university. We've struggled all our lives to make a few quid, support our families, pay a mortgage, try and do everything by the book. You know, I left school at 16, worked on building sites, joined the army, left the army, built a career in advertising, made a few pounds. That's all gone now because of the COVID nonsense. So I don't have any white privilege, but I've got people like Lewis Hamilton, a spoilt, pampered little brat, multi-millionaire, lecturing about racism. Really, Lewis? Really, Lewis? Because you've suffered so much, haven't you, son? You've suffered so much. Just go and shack up with a pussycat doll and give us all some peace, instead of ranting and raving about how all statues should be pulled down that have anything to do with slavery. Inciting criminal damage. That's what you're doing, Lewis, with all your millions of followers. Because what you say has consequences. Because you're iconic. What you say has consequences. What's the other? Raheem Sterling ranting about racism. Really, Raheem? Because a few people have booed and jeered at you on the football pitch. And that's wrong, by the way. I totally agree that's wrong. But who are you to start lecturing people about what they should do and what they should believe? And again, your comments will have, like my comments will have consequences. That's why I'm always very measured in what I say. Your comments will have consequences. And I said this at the weekend, but I'm going to say it again. There's going to come a time, just going to have a look at that. What's that? No, I'm on the streets shouting. Guys, I can't read the comments. Sorry, guys. It's really embarrassing this because I haven't got the glasses on me. I can't read the comments. I'm on my phone, but I'll have a look at them when I get back in. If we get there early enough, there isn't much they can do. Oh yeah, you talked about Saturday. Listen, I mean, honestly, if you can get to London on Saturday, if I can get there, well, it's looking unlikely because of the situation with traveling from Northern Ireland to the mainland, which is another story. This one's going to run and run. If it's difficult for people to get. What happened if one of these statues came down and hurt someone? That's a very good point. I said that at the weekend when that statue came down of that slave trader. Imagine if a 9-year-old black boy had been running under that statue when it came down. Just got through his parents' legs. Been at the demo, got through his parents' legs and stood under that statue as white people pulled it down. That wouldn't have been very good optics, would it? And the reality of this is, guys, and this is why, again, I'm saying Saturday, what happens on Saturday must be peaceful, because one, the optics of black and white people facing each other off is exactly what the left, Black Lives Matter, and the far right want. There's people that do want a race war, and I know for a fact it's not what any of us want. We would just want to defend our monuments, right? But I also believe some of the people involved. Again, I was talking to my friend yesterday, who's used to be a police officer, and he said to me, he said, look, he says a lot of these black people that were involved in those, and this is black police officers, a lot of the black people involved in those demonstrations were gang members from all over London. That's what he said to me. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I trust this guy, so I'm just going to say that I'm sure it is the case. But what's going to happen sooner or later, somebody's going to get killed at one of these demonstrations, at one of these Black Lives Matter demonstrations. Or you're going to have people so radicalized by the media coverage, because honestly, you would think, the way the media are getting on, you would think that we were living in either Nazi Germany in the 1930s, or we were living in South Africa during the apartheid years. That's what you would think by the way the media are behaving. And Piers Morgan, do you know what he said this morning? He said Donald Trump should take the knee. I tell you what, Piers, I'm never going to take the knee to anyone. It's shameful. Taking the knee and black people demanding that white people bow to them is shameful, disgusting, bigotry and racism. And I will never bow the knee to anyone. Black, white, yellow. I will not take the knee. And I'll tell you something, Piers. All lives matter. No matter the skin pigmentation, because all blackness is a different pigmentation that's developed to let people deal with hot conditions. That's what it's all about. There's no difference between me and Wally Babatunde when we get under the skin. That's why I reject all racism, because there's only one race. It's the human race. And according to my Bible, we're all made in the image of God. And that's why I do this, because I'm sick of this. I'm sick of my country getting destroyed and the history of my country getting raped by the mainstream, by the fake news media, by reprobates like Piers Morgan. He's a vile, arrogant scumbag. And I tell you what, let's keep the send Piers packing campaign going. Let's see Piers Morgan sacked. I want to see that man sacked from Good Morning Britain, because I'm just sick of seeing his face every morning on the TV. But listen, it's a David and Goliath struggle. Let's say tomorrow night. It's just a little rant, because I'm so wound up about this, guys. I'm so wound up about this. I'm so upset about what's happening in my country. I'm so upset about what's happening in Northern Ireland with the IRA being in government. I'm so upset about what's happening in Scotland with the flipping the Scottish Nazi Party being in power, the Scottish National Socialists being in power. So tomorrow, 7:30 in the evening, on this channel, Tommy Robinson, Pastor Wally Babatunde. Let's change the narrative. Let's challenge these lies we're being told. Sadly, there's many people still believing the mainstream narrative. Sadly, there's many young black impressionable people, and I would say this if white people have been brainwashed. I believe what is happening by groups like Black Lives Matter is a brainwashing campaign, and it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. I'd say to black people, I make an open appeal to black people. Put off the race tag. Put off the race tag. Put off the skin colour tag. I don't care what colour you are. I genuinely don't give it. I don't give a damn what colour you are. It doesn't bother me in the least. If you're brown, black, whatever colour, and you need to forget about being black, and you say I'm British, and I'm proud to be British. I'm proud of this great country with all its liberties, all its freedoms, and you should be very pleased that you can actually go out and peacefully protest. I'm not even going to start on the social distancing and on the COVID-19 rules being broken, but I tell you what, the hypocrisy of the mainstream media calling literally for the hanging, for the public execution. He had the show trial, the same media that subject Dominic Cummings to a show trial 3 weeks ago. They were the main cheerleaders for Black Lives Matter, a Marxist revolutionary group. But incidentally, they want to defund the police. That's one of their stated aims. They want to defund the police. Well, I want to defund the BBC, and I think that's a campaign we can all get behind. And Alan Craig said it to me a few weeks ago. He was talking about the BBC. He said we need to defund them, and I was like, oh, Alan, would it not be just better reforming them and seeing them basically the organisation that they should be? You know, it's good to have a state broadcaster that's impartial and so on and so forth. He says no, they're irredeemable. They're irredeemable. They can't be reformed. So I'm sorry. I totally now agree. I've changed my mind. I've flip-flopped on this one. I totally now agree with Alan Craig. The BBC needs to be defunded. It can't be reformed. It needs to be destroyed. And like Tommy said on Sunday, you know, there's a statue at the BBC created by a paedophile on their building. Nobody's calling for that to be pulled down. It's interesting, isn't it? I wonder why. If we want to talk about racism, let's talk about racist rape gangs. There has been a rape jihad going on in the United Kingdom for at least the past 30 years. Do you hear the mainstream media talking about it? The BBC did one programme. They did one programme on it. One dramatised documentary. Well, that scandal, that is a true racist scandal, because up to 1 million, so according to a Labour MP, up to 1 million white British girls have been raped by Pakistani Muslim men. That's what a Labour MP said. I'm just reporting what a Labour MP said, and we need to demonstrate about that. And Alan Craig called for it last night, called for a demonstration outside the Home Office. It's going to happen sometime in mid-July. We haven't got a date yet. It's going to happen sometime in mid-July. And if I don't get over for this weekend, I will 1,000,000% be over for the demonstration against the rape of Britain. A demonstration against the rape of 1 million white girls by Pakistani Muslim men. 100% I'll be over for that, and that's one that we all need to get to. We need to have thousands of people on the streets for that demonstration. We need to clear our diaries for mid-July. I don't know the exact date of it, that's to be confirmed, but mid-July we need to get to London, and we need to get outside the Home Office, and we need to make a noise outside the Home Office, because obviously it's perfectly legitimate to demonstrate against racism in London. So this is a demonstration against racism. It's a demonstration against racist attacks on white girls by Pakistani men. We're going to play identity politics. Is that the game we're going to all start playing? Well, I'll definitely be there in mid-July. If I can get over this weekend, I will. It's looking unlikely, unfortunately. But if you can get to London this weekend, you know, please do. Please get to London and get round those monuments. Veterans, football lads, patriots. It's a vital thing to make a stand. And like I say, we've got to do our best to do our best to make things right. Guys, I'm going to go because I've ranted too long there now, but I'll see you all soon. And tomorrow night, Tommy and Wally Babatunde on this channel at 7:30. See you all soon.